Hey everybody, how you doing? Lars here. Going to do the first review video for the first unit of the PMDS course. This is probably a little bit weird for you because the way the timing worked out this semester, we haven't met in person yet. So you're probably looking at the screen and saying, "Oh my God, is this how Python is going to be all semester? I'm going to have to learn computer programming from this deranged Viking-looking guy in his dining room?" And the answer is, well, yes or no. I usually do a couple of these videos every time we do a unit so that you can see some of the stuff that you saw in your unit in action, and it takes some of the trepidation away when you see it done by somebody else, and I want to make sure that you have that, so it's not just reading slides, reading the book, doing the programs, getting a grade, blah, 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 blah. I want you to see it and know what I'm thinking about as we go through all of these different things. That said, I want to make sure you're good now because it's the beginning of the semester and you get Python 3.4 installed on your system, be it a Windows system, Linux system, Mac, whatever you're using, and that we just use IDLE for what's called an IDE, an integrated development environment, and it's simple, but it will still, color your keywords and do indenting for you and do some other neat things that you'd like to have done for you as a programmer. My advice to you at the very start is that if you're having some difficulty installing Python on your system, come to a place called the Cave. I work for the computer science department, and the main thing that I do for the department is I run the instructional laboratories for the undergraduates, and they're located in the Hill Center Annex, and one of the rooms is a collaborative lab that I built 5 years ago called the Cave. It's staffed with iLab assistants that I hire, and they help you with all kinds of technical things, programming issues, installing things on your machines. So if you have the time, we're open from 1 in the afternoon till 11 at night, and I'll go through all of this on Monday when we meet. But if you have some time, maybe before class or during the week, to go in and grab one of the kids and say, "Hey, I'm having some trouble," you can do that and get that installed. I'm assuming it wasn't that big a deal. A lot of you have 3.4. A lot of you are probably already playing around with the code that were in your unit slides. So I'm probably going to be releasing the homework assignments maybe tomorrow night. I don't know. I've been set back a little this weekend because I spent the entire day shoveling snow. And now it's back. It still hasn't stopped snowing. It's not going to stop until like 1 o'clock tonight. But I live in Metuchen, and a lot of people will be like, "Oh, Metuchen, la-dee-da," but I don't. I live in the south side where all us poor people live, and everybody on my street is like 60 or 70 years old, so they can't shovel their driveway. So me and a couple of the younger guys on the street, every time it snows, we just get our shovel, get going, and we have to go up and down the Hickory Street and start shoveling everybody's driveway. So I am shot right now. I am just full of coffee and ibuprofen. So hopefully we'll get through this video nice and quick. All right, I'm assuming you have 3.4. If you don't, we're going to get you to the Cave. We're going to get you okay. But I, without further ado, am going to fire up Python. You can see right here, it's 3.4. I explain in one of the documents that we had that I want to use 3.4 and not 3.5 because I know for a fact that a lot of the libraries we might look at later work with 3.4. So, boom, we fired up Python for the first time. I'm sitting here staring at a blank thing. Tradition demands that I say hello world. I don't know where this tradition came from, but the first thing we do when we learn a programming language is we print hello world to the screen. Let's play around with some variables. I could say A equals 3. I could say B equals 7. And I can then look at my variables by just typing them in. Can't do this in a program, but we'll do some other stuff like that later. Or I can say A plus B, and it'll tell me 10. Or I can assign the results of that to a new variable and then check out what that new variable is. Okay. Now, A, B, C, all of these things are what we call integers as far as a data type is concerned. I could say D equals 4.44 and then have what we call floating point. Now, how could you tell the difference? There is a built-in function that Python has called type. And as you can see, it says class integer. And if I do type for D, it'll tell me class float. And lastly, the last of the three I think we play around with early. No, actually in Unit 1 we look at Booleans. That's the other data type, something that's true or false. I can set the variable W equal to the string of characters, or string, called Lars. And then when I print it, you see how it has the single quotation on either end. If I did a type on that, it'll tell me string, and it does, str. Okay, so this is just the interactive Python window. We are given a command line, and we can type in different kinds of Python commands, but really what we want to do, and we're going to get started doing it right away, is to create programs. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click File, I'm going to say New File, and it's going to give me a blank window like that. I always start out with comments. I use this as a comment, and I can say, oh, didn't want to do that. Author Lars Force beginnings, and I'll say Unit 1. All right, ready to go. Yes, might as well do this, if for nothing else, because we want to do it. Okay, I've created a small program here now. What's the first thing that I want to do? I want to save it. So I say File, Save As, and actually I usually am more organized than this. I would have a directory ready and waiting, but I have not created said directory. So I will do so now. Let's see. Where is my Python Data Science? I did set up Spring 2016. What do you know? Let's say, well, let me say rev1.py, and we'll save it there. Okay, so now I've saved my file or program, and I've called it rev1-py. Py is a suffix, stands for Python. So when you run different programs, at least in a Windows environment, it will know that something with a suffix of .py, more coffee, is a Python program, and you'll be able to do that. Now, the last thing we want to do is run our program. So we come up here to the Run window, and we click Run Module. As we'll see later, programs are called modules in Python. And there we go. We can see at the bottom of our screen, in our interactive window, it says Hello World. So the results of our program are run down here in our interactive window. And we'll show you some more stuff about that later. Let's do this. Remember, number sign or octothorpe for comments. Let's play with some arithmetic. Okay, let's say the sum equals 12 plus 45. You know what? Forget that. Let's do this. Let's use variables. There we go. The sum equals A plus B. The diff equals, I'm not playing around with negatives, so I'll do B minus A. Okay. I'll say product equals A times B. I'll say quotient equals B divided by A, and here's a rub. I'll say quotient 2 equals B integer or floor division A, and we'll do that. Let's print these results. Now that's something different when you do something in a program, unlike the interactive window where I come over here and I just type in A and I get something. Well, if it's defined, I get something. Hold on. See? Here I have to use the print function in order to print my results to the screen, which shouldn't be a problem. Let's do that. The diff, product. I am going to sleep like a baby tonight. I wish to God I was something that could have measured all the snow I moved today. Let's see, quotient 2. I think we're there. I think we're in Fat City. Let's find out. Boom, 11.3. Are those numbers right? I think they are. Now, you'll notice with the division, quotient B divided by A, regular division 1.75 because you got a 7 being divided by a 4, right? The second one, there are 2 slashes. because I'm an old fuddy-duddy, usually call that integer division, but it's also called floor division, where everything is kind of rounded down. That's what a floor function would do, is round things down. Ceiling rounds things up. Using floor division within, that was, don't worry, there's not an emergency. That's my dryer. Floor division takes everything down. So as you can see, the floor division for that is a 1, because 1.75 rounded down would be just a 1. So we can do that. Two other things really quick that I think I'm going to look at are we can square things. Well, we can square things, but it's more exponent than square, because I'm going to, let's see, I will do b to the a. Now, hold on. I'll just do the 2 at first. Let's print it out so we have it. And as you can see, you get 49 because it squares it, but it's really just an exponent function. So I can put an a there. It doesn't have to square it. And I can do that. Now, you guys see me running these programs pretty quick, and it happens on the other side. What I'm doing is I'm going and I'm hitting Control S. Control S saves. Idle forces you to save your program before you run it. At first, it will be a pain in the rear end, but later you'll say, you know what, that's pretty cool, because it forces me to save my work, and it will save you a lot of trouble in the end. And then run here, run module, is F5. So after you've been programming for a while with Python, you're just going to do Control S F5 without even thinking about it, and just like that, you're going to run your programs. So that's what I've been doing. There's no mystery or magic. I've just been hitting Control S to save my work, and then I've been hitting F5 to run it real quickly. So that's what I'm doing. That's why you're seeing things run. I don't want anybody to be confused. No such thing as a dumb question. So if there's anything that's confusing or anything that's kooky about any of this, make sure to go into Sakai and go into the forums for the Q&A for Unit 1 and put it in there, because we're all in this together. Ask questions, other students, me. Monday, you're going to meet the TA for the class, this guy Eric. He works for me at the Cave. Great guy. He's going to be in there answering questions. No such thing as a dumb question, because this is all in about 2 or 3 weeks. You're going to look back at this and you're going, oh my God, that was so simple. But right now, it's not simple. You're learning it, you know. So don't worry about it. If something is confusing, ask about it. All right, because a lot of this stuff is confusing, and a lot of this stuff, there will be technical sounding buzzwords that I've been using for 20 years. So I don't know that it's technical or buzzwordy. I'm dumb. I figure everybody knows the terminology I'm using. If you don't understand something, call me out. Just say, hey, we don't know what that means. You know, explain things, because that's my job. I got to explain things to you guys, because this stuff isn't hard. People think computer programming is hard because it's not explained very well. I don't want to throw my people under the bus, but they're usually crappy teachers. That's a lot of the problem with learning computer science. People think it's hard. It's not hard. There's nothing hard about it. It's just it needs to be conveyed in normal terms at first before you learn all the buzzwords, and then we'll get you up to speed, and then you too can sound like a nerd. All right. What else do I want to do here? I want to do one last thing. I want to play around with modulus. So I will say the mod equals, and I will say b %, which in this case is modulus a. And in the end here, I will print the mod. Control S to save, F5 to run, and I get 3. Okay, so B7 divided by 4, what? Modulus 4. So it gave me the remainder instead of giving me the division. So if you did a division operation, B divided by A, the answer would be 1. But by doing modulus, I want the remainder, and the remainder is 3, so that's correct. If I did 2, it would be 1. Let's confirm that, and that's how it works. So that's what modulus does, as we'll see later in some of the programs that we do with, seeing if something is a factor of something. Modulus comes in handy. So I want people to be aware of modulus. The operator is the %. Okay? So that's simple arithmetic. I am going to take this program and put it up in your resource folder for Unit 1 in Sakai after I'm done with this video. So don't think you have to follow along and type all of this stuff in. I'm going to put this file that I'm creating right now in the resource thing, so you can grab it and play around with all of these things later on your own. All right, let's see. We have done a hello world. We have run a program. We are using variables. We are using simple arithmetic. We are moving along. We have used the print function. This is crazy. All right, what else do we want to really do? One last thing I can show you really quick, because I did it before, is that we can also use strings in our program. But the difference with strings here is I can't just say W like I could in the interactive window. Nothing happens, okay? Because when I use a program, I need to use the print function. But now if I print W and run it, it'll print Lars at the bottom, as you can see right there. One thing we can do with the print thing is we can add a thing called a string literal, where I say my name is in quotes. That's treated as a string just like the variable W is. Now when I run it, it says my name is Lars. Okay, so that's how that works. There's one more thing I want to show you, and it's really not that complicated, but there is a little bit of a twist to it, and it is using the input function. Now, you've probably seen we're running through all of these examples up here, A, B, A, B. A is set to 4 and B is set to 7. And you know what? It's going to get pretty useless pretty fast, because every time I want to change those numbers, let's say I come in here and I make that a 5 and I make this a 12. Then I rerun it and I get my new numbers. Okay, I got my new numbers. The program's semi-useful. The problem is not everybody's a programmer. They're not going to know to open up a program and come in here and literally change these variables in the program and rerun the program. When we put a variable in a program that can't be changed by the user, we usually call that hard coding. We've hard coded the 5 to A and we've hard coded the 12 to B. Well, sometimes we don't want to do that. Sometimes we want to ask the person running the program what they want a variable to be. So that's what we're going to learn how to do with a thing called the input function. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to teach you a little trick. See these comments here with the octothorpe or the number sign in front of it? That's one way to do a comment. There's another way to do a comment. 1, 2, 3 single quotes. And then when you want the comment to end, 1, 2, 3. Boom. And you see everything in between here is turned green. That's Idle's way of coloring the comment. So anything in between those 3 single quotes is going to be considered a comment and not regarded. So now, basically, if I said print hello, that is all that should be run. And that is all that is run, because the rest of the program is now commented out. Okay? I just did that because I want to do this input function and do that only. Now, okay, I want to ask the user for a number, and then I'm going to print what the square of that number was. So what do? I can first come up with a variable. I'll call it number. And I'll say make it equal to, and now is where I use input. And then I put in quotes what I want the prompt to be. So I'll say, please, because I'm very polite, please enter a number. Look at that. Now, when I run the program, it's going to say, please enter a number. I'm going to give it a number and hit enter. And whatever number I give it is going to be placed in that variable number. So now I should be able to say the square is equal to number raised to the second. We do exponentiation that way. And then I'm going to print string literal, the square of number. See how I did the comma and I got out of the quotes? It's because I want to use the variable. Now I want to start the literal again. Is, end quotes. I don't think I need that space. We're going to find out. And then I'm going to say square. Okay? So when I run this program, it's going to say, please enter a number. I'm going to give it a number. I'm going to do a calculation in the very next line. I have a variable called SQU square equal to number raised to the second power. Then I print the square of the number is the square. All right? Everything should be good, right? Everything looks great. Everything looks like it's going to work perfectly. It's not. It's not gonna. Actually, you know what? It might work. This is actually going to be neat. Hold on. Let's go find out what happens. Please enter a number. I'm going to enter my number as 20. So the square of 20 is what, 400? Dun, 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 dun. It didn't work. I got an error. I'm like, okay, why did I get an error? How weird. So I read this error, and I don't expect you to read these errors. Don't get scared by this craziness. What I'm going to show you is this. First, let me comment these out. Remember that type command we used before? Print type number. Let's run this and see what it says to us. Please enter a number. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to enter 20. Class string. First, I'm fixing this so it doesn't happen again. Class string. So when I say please enter a number and I give it that number 20, it doesn't see it as a number. I can even do it here in the interactive window. Look how it's got quotes around it. It sees it as a string. It sees it as a word. So how do I get it so that I'll use that number as an integer and not a string? The way we do that, I'm going to show you. I'm going to get rid of this. Is to do a thing called casting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this entire input statement around int, which takes whatever the result of this is as a string and turns it into an integer. Now, if it says please enter a number and I type spaghetti, it's not going to turn it into a number. It's going to say you have an error, you're an idiot. But if I give it the 20 like I've given before, instead of quote 20, quote treating it like a word, it's going to say, okay, we want this to be an integer. And in the variable number, it's going to treat number like an integer. All right? Actually, you know what? Before we even do the operation, just so we can prove that, I'm going to say type number. So let's run this. Let's see what this gives us. Enter a number. Uh-oh, I'm nervous. Is this going to work? Da-da-da-dun-dun-dun-dun. It does. Because what we've done is we've said enter a number. I entered my 20. And then I said print the type of the variable number. And it says class integer. It says, okay, it's an integer now because we used casting up here and turned it into that. Then I define SQ as number raised to the second power. Now remember, whenever you see these math equations, we evaluate from right to left in computer science. So we evaluate all of this over here and then assign it to this variable. You see that single equal sign? That's assignment. That's not equality. We're going to see in the second half of this unit what equality is. That is an assignment. That is taking a value and assigning it to a variable. Okay? And then the print statement is just a mix of variables we already had, number from when we entered it, square from when we created it, and string literals, which are just strings that we make up for ourselves and put in quotes. Okay? So that's how you use the input, and that's how you cast. And remember, when you use the input statement, it returns a string. When you ask the input function to do something for you and take something from the screen, it does it very well, but it gives you a string. It gives you a word. It doesn't give you a number that you can use. We have to literally tell Python that we want to use a number. Okay? All right, I like it. Now, we're going to do one last thing. I'm going to flash that out. As you read about Python, as you learn about Python, as we talk about Python, you're going to see that there are some things about Python that are different from other programming languages, be it Java, be it C, C++, Fortran, whatever. And when you see these neat little features, there will often Python programmers will say that's something that's very Pythonic. That's something that Python people know about. Python programmers they call themselves Pythonistas. Believe me, we're a weird bunch. But something, I figure every time I do a video, I'm going to try to do something a little Pythonic to show you that Python has some neat features that other languages might not show you. And one of them is when we swap variables. Classically, in computer science, if I had a equals 5 and b equals 9, let's say I wanted to swap those variables so that b is now equal to 5 and a is now equal to 9. Classically, in computer science, what we would do is I would create a temp variable, and I would say, let's make temp equal to a. So now I've saved the value in a. Now I can change a to whatever the value is in b. Now I can take b, and I can make it equal to temp. So now, if I print, actually I should have done that before I did my swap. So now if I print a, b, I'm going to do it up here too. Copy, let's see. Before swap, after swap. All right, we are cooking with gas. Let's see what we get. All right, before the swap, we have a is 5 and b is 9. And after the swap, of course, we have the opposite. We have a is 9 and b is 5. So we've successfully done that swap, but it has taken us 3 lines in order to do it. Now, because I know how Python assigns variables and how Python does things, we could take these 3 lines and do it in 1 line. And it's pretty cool, and this is what we do. Let's get rid of those 3 lines. Now I can say a comma b equal to b comma a. And usually in other programming languages, we can't do this. But Python allows us to assign multiple variables in 1 line. And because Python, the way Python works, remember what I told you? And this is what reminded me. We evaluate from right to left this way. Well, if you're on this side, these variables haven't changed or been altered yet. So really all you're doing is you're taking things that you know. You're taking an A, which I know is a 5, and you're putting it in B. Then you're taking B, which I know is a 9, and you're putting it in A. So you never had to worry about one of those things getting lost. Okay? Actually, I don't think I need that space. So this single line here takes the place of having to deal with that silly little temp variable. Later on, maybe we'll show you, when we get to CS topics in Unit 4, we'll show you different sorts, and there's a thing called a bubble sort. And a bubble sort, that's where you always learn about that temp variable when you do your bubble sorts. All right, anyway, for all you guys know, I'm full of crap. Let's run this and make sure it works. Save, F5, fingers crossed, and it does. As you can see, we've done the swap before swap 5.9 and after swap 9.5. So we are good to go. Look at that. All right, let's do our Python version of a grand finale. Uh-oh, everything's back. All right, F5. Look at that. We did all the math. Enter the number. I'm going to use 20. And there it does. And there's the output of our entire program. All right, so I'm going to save this, rev1.py, and I'm going to put it up in Sakai. But that's it. That's the basics, okay? It may not seem like it, but we've done a lot of stuff here. You've created your first program. You've saved your first program. You've run your first program. You've used the print function. You've assigned variables. You've switched variables around. You've used simple arithmetic to define more variables. You understand that we evaluate from right to left when we do things in Python. Floor division, exponentiation, modulus, more things with the print function, how you can use a string literal and have your print function print out, legible stuff. String variables. I did it over here at the very first. We had floating points. You'll see when we do math, we do a lot of things with integers, but I'll explain a little bit more about that later. So now we're also down here using the input function. I can take a number from the user and then use it in my program. I can use it as a string, or I can cast it to a number and do things with numbers like we did in our example here. And real quick, I just got to put a comment in here. I will call it a pythonic swap. A different way to swap variables, and something neat and something nice. A little Easter egg for you. I'll save that. Okay? So, that's the end of this first video. I'm not going to kill you. Usually, as you'll see going forward with these videos, right now I would give you a synopsis of where we were, how we're doing, everything's okay, blah, 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 blah. But we haven't met yet. So it's kind of weird, and I'm going to wait until Monday. Remember, Monday, I don't know what the snow is going to do to us. I can only imagine everything's going to be cleaned up and okay by then. But Monday, 4:30, core auditorium downstairs, we're all going to get together and meet. And we're all going to go over all of the things, how to get Python going, how to do a simple program, what's expected of you. I think tomorrow night or Monday, I'll put out the assignments. Don't worry, you have a whole week to do them, and they're not crazy hard. Then you'll start to get the gist, and you'll start to get a little bit of the structure. So all of this won't be crazy for you. I hope this video helps a little bit. Once you get Python running, you can follow these steps to do all the things we did. And like I said, in a couple of weeks, you're going to say, my God, this is so simple. But right now, it's not simple. So do it and get used to it, and you're going to find out it's fun. It's nothing but it's solving puzzles. It's problem solving. It's fun stuff. But so once we get the basics down, then we can start doing things with data science, and then we can do more complicated stuff, and then you guys are going to have your aha, eureka moments, and you will. So don't worry about it. All right? Pleasure to meet you all, even though I can't see you yet. But I'm going to see most of you on Monday. All right? And I'm going to get some sleep and get ready to get up and just shovel snow again tomorrow. Because right now my driveway is all full again. It's bizarre. It's just absolutely bizarre. I think they set a record in Manhattan. I think the snowfall is now over 26 or 27 inches. So I think it's a record in Times Square. Times Square is Central Park. I forget what they were talking about. Anyway, you be good. And I will see you Monday night. And we will really get this Python class kicked off and underway. All right? You be good. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.